And that is video footage of the anti-Semitic mob, the pro-Hamas terrorist sympathizers, literally breaking into Columbia University's academic hall and taking seize of this area. It is shocking, the images that we're watching. And to break this all down and all the other topics that are happening politically, not only here in America, but across the globe, I have with me Larry O'Connor, host of O'Connor and Company on WMAL and a daily host of Larry at Town Hall Media. Yes, that's right. Larry. That's
like,
big.
like one word. It's like Cher. It's like
Madonna.
Taylor.
Prince. Prince.
That's me.
Formerly known as Prince.
This. You say, hey, do you want to do CPAC Now with me? And I thought, I'd love to, Mercedes. And so now my task is to break down that and every other story around the world. Okay, I can do that. This is easy.
Look, I'm still a little jet lagged from CPAC hungry, so you got to give me a break here, okay?
But I'm a little hungry from CPAC jet lag.
I do have jet lag as well. But let's look at this video here.
It's unbelievable. It's the lunatics running the asylum, Mercedes. How are they allowed to do this? It's like my favorite part of these protests, by the way, and let's be clear. You're right to say they're pro-Hamas. They are elevating and celebrating terrorists,
right,
and chanting terrorist slogans like "Death to the Jews," "Death to Israel." Last I checked, that's kind of hate speechy, you know. But make no mistake, these are the exact. You saw Joe Scarborough this morning was actually lamenting. Well, these children have got no education. They're not critical thinkers. Don't they know they're on the side of the terrorists? Joe, these are the same people who 4 years ago were chanting "Death to MAGA." And trying to keep conservative students who happen to be pro-Trump and America First off of college campuses. These are your new friends. This is the monster the left has created, and it will eat its own at every turn. We're seeing all of their Marxist policies play out before our eyes.
Right, and we're seeing a university administration, obviously the president of Columbia University. I mean, they have no idea what they're doing. They are really in a very defensive position. I think they have said, okay, this is a violation. They're breaking the law. They've moved forward with taking out these encampments, but we're seeing this becoming an escalation on these college campuses, Larry, to no end. So what does the Biden administration do? Do they bring in the National Guard? Does the university administration, call on federal and state intervention to get control of the situation?
Well, in a sane world, they would, if we actually had a commander-in-chief or a chief executive of our federal government who actually cared about law and order. But why should they start now? I mean, they love this. Listen, this is the exact same thing that we see every 4 years. 4 years ago, it was Black Lives Matter. Before that, it was Occupy Wall Street. I mean, this is programmed and planned and coordinated and funded, and it usually helps the left out. The difference, though, is the American people right now are weary of this, number one. We're done with it, and they picked the wrong issue. I think they really overplayed their hand here, thinking that Americans in some way sympathize with the residents of Gaza. We sympathize with Israel. We know who the good guys are here. And today's poll shows overwhelmingly the American people see Israel as being on the right side of this issue. The problem is Joe Biden only cares about this thing right here. Not my hand. That's the state of Michigan. I'm from Michigan. I'm allowed to do this.
I thought you were giving me like a secret signal or something, Larry.
That's my secret signal to you. It's because we're in the Illuminati. That's what we do. No, it's Michigan. He cares about winning Michigan, and someone has whispered in his ear, Kamala Harris, someone has told him, Rashida Tlaib, that the only way he can win Michigan if he throws down with the terrorists. And so that's what he's done.
Well, I think that you're seeing this tension within his own administration where they're basically trying to be supportive of Israel, provide the aid that Israel needs, and then at the same time saying, all right, Israel, back off from attacking the terrorist who basically killed over 1,000 innocent Israeli families, and also holding hostage a number of these individuals, many of them which we know are dead. And yet the Biden administration, I mean, it just shows so much weakness on their part. And I do think that, everywhere Biden is going, these protests are following him. And so I think it's a horrible position for the White House to be in right now.
Oh, it absolutely is. You don't want to be, not in terms of where the American public is and where the voters are right now. And you're absolutely right about the hostages that they continue to hold to this day, including Americans. Why is this not the top story every single day in the news, that Americans continue to be held hostage, right? And I'm sorry, this is what a leader does. This is what an American leader does. Every time somebody comes up, knocks on his door to the Oval Office and says, Mr. President, we're really worried about Israel and they've got to stop this. We got to have a ceasefire. There's only one answer: release the hostages,
Yes.
then we talk.
And it
Release
does,
the hostages, then we talk.
and it does seem that Secretary Antonin Blinken, he mentioned at an event he was recently in that they are looking towards Israel moving forward with the ceasefire if there would be the release of these. They first said 40, now they're saying maybe 33. I'm actually concerned, Larry. I don't know how many are actually left alive.
Oh, God.
The reality is that they have Hamas has tortured and killed these innocent people, grandmothers, women, men, babies. I mean, let's be real. So I think for them to achieve a ceasefire, and you're talking about a 40-day truce, I think it's very problematic. I don't see it happening. What say you?
Oh, no, I 100%. And Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, God bless those hostages, because even if they are still surviving, I mean, they're destroyed.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what their lives will be like after this? I mean, we know that the women have been treated like sex slaves during this whole thing, God forbid. And I'm sorry, it's horrible. But this is the reality. And imagine this scene. You're Bibi Netanyahu. You have literally worn the uniform and fought this enemy for decades. You lost your brother in one of the battles of the wars against this very enemy. You know who they are. You know what they're capable of. You're the leader of your nation, and you're trying to protect your citizens. And the vast majority of the Israeli people are backing Benjamin Netanyahu, who doesn't always have the majority of his people backing him, but right now they do. And you've got to take a phone call from the likes of Joe Biden or Kamala Harris and Antony Blinken telling you how to fight a war, like they have any idea how to fight, let alone win a war. It's outrageous. It's humiliating that America has been put in this position.
I want to go back to these protests on campus. There was a USC because you also lived in California, so I'm going to go to every single state you've lived in.
Yes, but California isn't shaped like this. I'd have to use my arm for California.
The USC professor basically saying, "F it. Go out, go protest. I don't even care about grades." I mean, that's the message. So you have the faculty. I mean, you see this video footage of literally the faculty. I thought they were dressed up as safety patrol.
Right.
A part of the Safety Patrol Association saying, please do not arrest these students. You've got American faculty basically promoting and supporting these pro-Hamas efforts. I mean, how troubling is that?
Well, Mercedes, this did not happen overnight. I mean, those of us on the right, we have been talking about the cultural morass on our college campuses, the lack of focus on real education. Everything we're seeing in our public schools now and in our corporate boardrooms with DEI and critical race theory and genderqueer theory, that all started and has been going on for decades on our college campuses. The faculty right now were the same people protesting, for a nuclear freeze during the Cold War and the Reagan era. And the presidents and the people who are on the board of trustees, the really old folks, they were the ones who were in 1968 hanging out with, the yippies trying to burn down the Democratic Convention in Chicago. So they're now running things and they think it's cool. They love it. But I'm with you. The safety vets gave me an idea. They should fire each and every one of those professors, and they're already dressed for their new job. They can pick up trash on the side of the highway. They can fix potholes, do something productive for society instead of giving out fake degrees in anthropology at a liberal arts school.
So how do you think that these universities can somehow recover? It feels like Harvard's been damaged, University of Pennsylvania damaged, now Columbia University, which is the epicenter of where these protests are happening. But I mean, this is spreading like wildfire everywhere.
First, they need to want to recover. And the only reason they will want to recover is when they start losing students with tuition and funding and endowments. We've seen some pretty big ticket donors saying, not another penny from me. Eventually, that's going to make a difference. That's going to cause some damage. And then they will be motivated to change. And what they need to do is actually instill real academic freedom on these campuses. You know what? They should look at Hillsdale. They should look at Hillsdale as a model and say, this is what academic freedom looks like. This is what freedom of speech looks like. Until they're forced to do that. And you and I both know these things, institutions only change when they're forced to under free market conditions.
Yep.
And ultimately, the spigot has to be turned off, and that includes government funding too. I know Mike Johnson is concerned about this. He's mentioned that any school that is currently doing this, they're entertaining pulling federal funding. How about we go further? How about instead of saying, it's a pretty low bar to say that you stop allowing illegal and violent anti-Semitic protests on your campus. How about we make them actually be proactive and demonstrate physically, literally, that they have a free and open campus for all ideas and all political perspectives. Yep. And until they demonstrate that proactively, they don't get a penny of federal dollars.
So the Jewish students don't feel safe. I'm all for peaceful protest. I think that, we all have this right to speak up freely about our position, whether we like it or not, we'd like the position or not. This is at a whole different level of literally like living in, in their tents with their stupid mask on, with a very, what I think is a hateful message. This is at a whole different level.
Well, and violating other students' rights.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. You have a right. You go to that school. Are you kidding me? Over at Columbia, they're actually saying, for your own safety, we want to keep the Jewish kids away. Oh, I've got an idea. Why don't you put them in their own little room, put bars on the windows for their own safety? Yeah. Segregate it. You can call it, like a mini Auschwitz, perhaps. That's how ridiculous they sound when they're talking about protecting Jewish students from what? How about you punish the people who you're protecting them from instead? They can't violate other people's rights. They are right now. But by the way, Mercedes, honestly, they've been doing this for years. These are the same campuses that wouldn't let Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh or me or Ann Coulter go and speak on their campus.
Right.
Our friend Scott Walker and Young America's Foundation, they're faced with this kind of stuff all the time when they just want to bring in a conservative to give a lecture, let alone, build an encampment in the middle of the campus.
Well, I got to tell you, I don't get the encampment thing. But I got to ask you this. So we've seen in the recent polls, definitely a shift. You saw CNN poll, Trump is up 49%, Biden 43%. There's a new poll of Trump being ahead in 7 key swing states that's coming out today on the Emerson College polling and the Hill. I mean, you talked about Michigan. I mean, that's tight, 45 to 44, 45% to 44%. What do you think? I mean, do you think, based on what we're seeing, you've got Trump criminal trial, you've got Biden, who is like mumbling half the time and doesn't know how to walk on his own to Marine One. You've got these protests going on. You've got this economy where people cannot pay their bills. Things are just way too expensive. How does this all shake out as we're going to go into the summertime?
Yeah, so a couple of key things. You're right. The polls are phenomenal right now, the national polls as well as the battleground state polls, as you pointed out. But interestingly, they're polling the 5-way race, right? Mm-hmm. There's the Trump-Biden race, but then the 5-way race includes RFK Jr., Jill Stein, and Cornel West. All 3 of those additional candidates draw from Joe Biden much more than they do from Donald Trump. His lead increases in a 5-way race. And honestly, that's all they should be polling, because Jill Stein, RFK Jr., and Cornel West are not going anywhere. The Democratic Party, in their hubris and arrogance, have created this alienated situation where they're staying in the race just out of defiance because they've ticked them off so much. Mm-hmm. In the 5-way race, Trump rolls. The other interesting poll and very important poll that came out today, Mercedes, is that 57% of the American people agree with the statement, is the Biden administration utilizing the judicial system as a political weapon against Donald Trump? 57% agree that Donald Trump is being persecuted politically by the justice system.
That's crazy.
That means that even if he is convicted, the American people are not going to take that into account politically. So how does it play out? If this continues and Joe Biden can't move the needle, I don't see how Democrats care about one thing: staying in power.
Yeah.
And the real people, Barack Obama and Valerie Jarrett and Susan Rice and the whole team Obama and the public employee unions and George Soros, the people that prop it up, and it's not a conspiracy if it's true, and it's true, they're going to make a change. I cannot see them, Mercedes, going with Biden all the way to the end if these conditions continue.
Wow. Well, they might have to lock him up in the basement and just say he's not available. But that means, Larry, the daily host of the Larry Show at Town Hall Media, that means that Kamala is your next best bet here. They're not going to pass up cackling Kamala. There's no way.
I think Kamala is their only play if it gets that bad. It's their only play. That's why you saw her on Drew Barrymore this week. The rehabilitation tour is beginning right now, and they're going to give her a shot. And if she can improve her numbers, I think they're going to make that call.
I want to just quickly play just really a small segment of the Drew Barrymore interview with Kamala.
Oh, it's so painful.
Oh, my gosh. We should put music to it.
I've been thinking that we really all need a tremendous hug in the world right now.
Yeah.
But in our country, we need you to be Mamala of the country.
I mean, Larry, she was drooling, like not even Matt Schlapp looks at me with those puppy eyes that Drew Barrymore was, you know, looking at Kamala. I mean, do you look at Meredith that way? Seriously?
I do. And honestly, back in the 90s, I used to look at Drew Barrymore that way. I am ashamed that I had these feelings for her.
Oh, boy. She was only cute during E.T. I don't know what you're talking about. That was like her moment.
You're so wrong. Are you kidding? Charlie's Angels?
I forgot about that. Yes.
Please. And Dancing with David Letterman, but that's a whole other story. Mercedes, can I call you my Mamala, by the way, at some point?
Mamala? Is that?
That's what.
Did I teach you how to laugh?
Kamala the Mamala. I don't want my president to we don't need a national hug. After years of beating us all down and COVID and the pandemic and the lockdown and calling anybody who cares about national security and border security a fascist, a protectionist, xenophobic, racist. And now suddenly they say, you know what, we're so wounded. We need a hug. And that's why we need Kamala, the Mamala Harris. That's disgusting. I don't want a hug from my president. I want a hug from my wife and my parents.
Do you, excuse me, do you think that, you know, like, who really focuses and has to defend their laugh? Like, I've never seen that as a political strategy.
Oh, I know. The cackle.
Seriously, the cackle.
And also, it's not just defending. If you have a problem with her laugh, it means you're sexist.
Yeah.
Yes. How great is that?
Crazy.
It's a beautiful thing. They've been able to flip it. But this is what they're going to try to do. Listen. Joe Biden, at this moment, cannot win, and he's doing nothing to turn it around. You know, you don't see over on MSNBC and CNN, you don't see all the apologists up there talking about what a great economy we have, about how great things are in foreign policy. Here's what you don't hear. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Because they know the answer to that. So the only thing they've got is fear. You know, oh, democracy is going to end. Oh,
that is right.
Oh, please, that's all they've got. And so when that doesn't work, the only chance they've got, and it's trying to draw to an inside straight, but it could work, is instead of putting Joe up there, they're going to put the historic figure, the first Black woman president in history. And oh my gosh, the great press, she's going to get great press. And there's going to be a honeymoon, and she'll be running. And she's like, I will not debate Donald Trump because I've got too much to do right now. My plate is full trying to put things in order, and I'm the first Black woman president, and they're just going to try to ride that into November, and it might work. It might work. I
got to tell you, Larry, we've been doing politics for quite some time. This has to be one of the craziest moments in our political history.
Yep.
Would you agree?
And it's going to go on for 7 excruciating months. But you know what? We got each other, I mean, you and I, but also we've got the entire CPAC nation here, international nation. We don't have to worry about the mainstream media anymore because we've got programs like this that go over their head and go direct to the people who want to see it and get this message. People know what the reality is. People know what the news is. We just got to stay in each other's camp, keep our focus, and take it right up to Election Day. That's what it's going to take. And they're going to it's going to get worse, Mercy. It's going to get worse.
All right. Put your armor of God on, because according to Larry, it's going to get worse.
I've got my rosary right here, baby, right here at all times.
Good for you. Good for you. I've got the holy water at home. So, Larry, thank you so much for joining me on CPAC Now, America Uncanceled. You're one of the favorites for our viewers.
It's always a pleasure,
and we all, you know, we always have a blast when we're together, because goodness gracious, we have to laugh more, or if not, we would be crying.
Oh, I'll say, or worse.
All right. Thank you, Larry O'Connor. And thank you all for watching CPAC Now, America Uncanceled. And keep watching. God bless.